And taking each person into your heart with you as we stay connected in this way, as we begin our practice, bringing each of the people deep into your heart, coming back to your surroundings, back to your center. Maintaining this sense of awareness of yourself and your surroundings and other as we dive into our practice. Taking one last deep breath in through the nose, expanding through the belly, and out through the mouth. Allowing the eyes to gently flutter open, connecting with each other. Looking around your space, stretching your body. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Tori.
Yes.
Were you done, or did you want to say any words or anything?
I'm done. I'm saying words to my four-legged here who wants to be part of meditation.
Okay. Welcome.
Is he all healed from the operation?
I think he's ready to go full-fledged forward. I'm holding him back a little bit but yes, he's doing well. Thank you.
Thank you, Tori.
Yes.
Sweet. Well, hi, everyone. So it's good to see you all. Hey, Will, are you here for the whole session or part of the session? He's not here right now. We'll ask him that if he comes back. So welcome, everyone. And Tammy, welcome. This is a different format than we usually do, than you've experienced. So go along with us. And it's great to have you here. And there are a number of things I want to do. I want to get us on our feet in a moment and do some practice. So Will, are you here for the whole session?
Yeah, why?
Just checking. Checking. Okay, thanks. And I want to reiterate that something to be thinking about. In the apprenticeship, I'm having all the apprentices contemplate the idea with the core exercise that Tori just beautifully led, that is the encapsulation of the entire process of respectful confrontation. That if you can master that one, you don't need the rest of it, because the rest of it is already embodied and you're already living it. And I'm offering that to you as well as a deeper contemplation of why is that and what does that actually mean. And I want to just remind you of, in this practice, this idea of the idea of skills-based learning, and not to take that for granted. You know, if we really took the time and I asked you to contemplate, for instance, you know, we talk about the concept in respectful confrontation of my truth does not equal the truth. And I would ask you from 1 to 5, how much have you really embodied that in every single moment of your life, in your sleeping life and your waking life, in your thoughts, your words, and your actions? Because I think many people will say, yeah, I get it, right? So remember, skills-based learning is, you have the information. You got the information the first time you talked about this. You may have a really deep understanding, and if you agree with this, or if this is your truth as well, that my truth does not equal that truth, you may have a deep contemplation, contemplative, reflective understanding of that. But in the actual practice of it from moment to moment, how far are you in the idea of skills-based learning? And that what I find is that the first layer that you can tend to transform is your actions, that your actions are operating that way. And then the next one that's more challenging are the words. What you say, are you noticing? And that's a tough one too, because we're so wired to talk in that way. Constantly hearing people say, I agree or I don't agree. And I think I've told you this, what I find is the most clever of them all is, I don't disagree with you. And that they think that that's like being really kind or nice or collaborative. but it's just a weird thing to say. And I really, really should write a blog post on what the hell does pushback mean? I really don't understand what that concept means. Push back, like what does that mean? Like not only with, in conversations, but with time. Can we push back that meeting? And I'm really like, I don't know, are we pushing it? Pushing seems like forward to me, but we're doing it back. So are we pushing it forward or are we pushing it back? Which means we're gonna do the meeting at the exact same time if we're gonna push back on it. I get very confused with that. And then pushback is actually, to me, a form of aggression, maybe violence, to say I'm gonna push back on that comment. Because what you're implying in saying push back is you pushed me. Otherwise I wouldn't push back, right? If you're pushing back, that means there was an initial push, which is like, who are you to say that what I said was pushing you? You may have felt pushed or challenged by it. And then my question is, why do you have to push? And why does it have to be a back? Why does it have to be a, you know, and it's interesting. And I think about this a lot because of living in Holland and having learned a new language and lived with a new language. I'm really sensitive to words. And the Dutch word for back in this context is tegen, which also means against. So when I hear push back, it automatically implies I'm against it. So to me, there's a lot of violence and aggression in that saying of push back. And I'm bringing that up, aside from I'm just glad to get it off my chest, is just this idea of, even though we understand the concept, my truth does not equal that truth, how much in our languaging and jargon are we still holding on to the concept, my truth is the truth? And then the most difficult one is in your thoughts. That can you manage in every thought you have, which is not 2 or 3 a day, just to, at least not for me, that in every thought, there's no judgment in it. There is no sense of that's to really understand the concept that everything I perceive is simply my perception. I mean, that is deep spiritual practice, if you can really go into that. And you can realize, I believe, from my teachings and that I've done, you could accomplish high realizations, spiritual realizations, when you can get to the point where even in your thoughts, there's no sense of my truth equals the truth. Where you understand that everything, every perception, every sensation is simply a subjective perception. Which I believe when you can really get to that point, then you start tapping into what is the truth. And that on some level, the one thing that's keeping us from accessing the truth is our attachment to the idea that our truth is the truth. So when we've let go of this idea that our truth is the truth, and we open up to the because that filter is so small. If I'm perceiving the truth through my truth and believing that that is the truth, then I'm not fully experiencing the truth. But if I can slowly dissolve this sense of my truth is not equal to the truth, doesn't negate what I think, say, or do. It's simply letting go of the idea that it's concrete, it's separate from anything else, and not seeing that it's simply a perception, a subjective experience of yours. When you fully step into that, you fully soften all of the rigidity around you to open up to the truth. I don't know why wasn't planning on going here, but I went here, sorry. Maybe I should take a breath.
First official Dojo rant.
Oh, I could do more, believe me.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the first, Todd.
Oh, you're right, Will.
That's your truth. That's your truth.
I agree, Will, I agree.
I was hearing a little bit of a Seinfeld-like rant about pushing back.
Okay.
Like there was a little bit of Seinfeld to it, I think. Like, not push back.
Not push. What does that mean?
Right,
what the hell does that mean? That's what the title is. What the hell does it mean?
I like it.
Anyway, any thoughts on what I just said before we move on to what I actually want to talk about?
Yeah, I actually do have a thought. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You go, Tammy. I love you. You go.
Oh, I love you too, Amelia. All right, so I did have a thought. It's interesting, Joe, this notion of, and I have heard this, many, many times, not just from you, but, in terms of just becoming more mindful and conscious that my truth is not the truth. And I've been thinking, as you were talking, I've been thinking about how important it is when you're a little kid to come to understand what your truth is, so that you can sort of stand and express yourself and create your boundaries for yourself, right? But with the immaturity or maturity level of a little kid, you don't sort of have the nuance of, just because this is my truth, this is everybody's truth, or you don't have the nuance to really distinguish that, right? And I do find myself as an adult dealing with other adults, so that lack of nuance between the truth and my truth, right? I find that that's often what I'm dealing with, is there's just a lack of nuanced understanding and separation of my truth and the truth. And the sense that, well, if my truth isn't the truth, then how do we even find what the truth is? And the sense that I have is, like, there is no singular truth that applies to everyone, that what we are doing is negotiating between our individual truths. And I just want to, that's the thought that's coming to me, and I just would like to hear more from the group about that.
I appreciate that, Tammy. And what I'm feeling after the rant and then your response is, my truth actually is important. My truth is not to be overlooked, dismissed, but my truth needs a context. And it's part of my development as a human being, is letting my truth sink into a context where it's not my truth or the truth, it's my truth is not the truth. And so I want them both to coexist. And I mean, if you even look at what we're doing here, Respectful Confrontation Dojo, is to stand in my power, speak my truth, get my needs met. And I'm feeling like, yeah, that childlike stage of discovering my truth is really important.
Yeah, I like that a lot, Todd. So the notion that my truth is not the truth, then sort of immediately I can see where that can put people on the spectrum of my truth, and then the other end of the spectrum is, or the truth, and that's actually a polarization and a dichotomy that does us a disservice.
Mm.
But what if my truth, it's not an either or, as we're just saying, but my truth is part of the truth. It's framed in a broader collective of my truth has value as part of the pursuit of figuring out collectively what is the truth. And as long as you don't hang on to my truth as it's got to be my truth or nothing, then it's a journey, it's a collective journey of trying to figure out how much. I mean, when I talk about my truth, it's also my way of figuring out what my truth is. It's a way of my processing through and hearing what do other people say, and but I'm not holding on to it as it must be the truth. It's part of me finding my truth.
I love what you said, Tammy, because it actually brings up for me like a piece that I haven't been holding as dearly during this whole thing, which is like that my truth is very precious. Like there is I think of the space exercise. I don't know if you've done this yet, Tammy, but the space exercise where we suddenly feel our own space, and it's like, that's my truth. Like, this is my space. It's my truth that not everybody gets to enter my space. And so that like also has like a huge preciousness, because I think I've been more on the other end of the spectrum recently, where I've just been so aware, like I feel like learning this work, it just made me unbelievably aware of how judgmental I am. And I sort of had this like idea, like I'm not really that judgmental as a person. I've just been like, wow, I'm like so judgmental. judgmental. And so it's like, and I'm using the tools strategically in situations to be less judgmental. But that's like a strategy. This is not like a deeply enlightened human being who's like not judgmental. You know, it's like someone like a very flawed human being using strategy.
Actually, though, Amelia, I love that. I love that notion of a, and I would actually I don't know that I would say a deeply flawed human being. I would say a human being, because I do believe it is, I mean, at least, you know, what anthropology has taught me is that our brains are actually physiologically designed for categorization and characterization. We're actually designed for that. It's a survival mechanism. So we're designed for judgment, right? So that is part of being human. And I love this strategy of being a more evolved human, right? By sort of, you know, poking at these. And what you said about space reminded me of something. I used to know this little kid, he was 4. He was learning about his personal space. And we sat down at a kitchen counter together that had tiles. And his name was Julio. And Julio counted out the tiles. And I was like, Julio, what are you doing? And he said, these tiles, these are my space. And those tiles, those are your space. And you can't come into my space unless I invite you. And I can't come into your space unless you invite me. And I was like, and I was 21 and I had never learned this lesson before. I was like, wow, okay, that is really interesting.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, I do think that the idea of truth as a space that you hold for yourself is profound. I really want to sit with that for some time now.
Thank you. Let's take a breath. Let's take a breath. I love all the wisdom you're sharing, and we can go on and on with this. And that's the point, right? This is the second part of this is the contemplation, reflection part, taking it into your heart and deepening it. You want to come back to the idea, are you really practicing on a moment-to-moment basis? And not even practicing anymore, but it's become a new habit. And these are all important things, and that's what happens when you investigate this deeper, is that my truth does not equal the truth, does not negate the truth, nor does it negate my truth. It's simply addressing the fact that if you claim that they are both the same, you're holding on to a certain level of rigidity, and that is the cause of war and breakdown of relationship. That's my viewpoint. And so if you want to overcome war and oppression and breaking, this is a concept to delve into deeper, is to understand the deeper implications. People can have their truths, and they can fully understand that it's simply their subjective experience of the world. And there's a celebration of that, there's an empowerment in that. And at the same time, from a spiritual perspective, because there are spiritual teachings that will say that there is the truth that is beyond basic human grasping, that the human mind is incapable because of what Tammy was just saying, because the brain and the nervous system is wired towards bias, towards categorizing, towards polarizing, towards fight, flight, freeze as soon as there's an agitation or a threat. And that is what spiritual practice is, you could say, is overcoming the basic biology of the human being to be able to open to a larger perspective. And the more you let go of this idea of the rigidity of that there's a concrete self, and accept that it's looser, it's softer, it's more open, that's when your heart and your highest consciousness can just shine through without any effort. And that to me is what spiritual practice is, and not only that, but I think that's really the path of the contemporary or the 21st century cultural change agent, is to live that and to embody that as you're moving out. And just to address what Joel said, I think that's interesting, is this idea, another step in that, it's not the final step, is to say that what comes closer to the truth would be a collective gathering of everyone's subjective truth. and that everyone is a part of the larger truth. But at the same time, as long as it's still human beings perceiving that truth, it's still not tapping into the truth. It's coming closer. And wouldn't that be nice if human beings were, the moment they're born, they're trained and encouraged to actually do that, to connect with a global connected effort to combine our subjective realities. And that is, to me, what I would say is oneness. It's going back to what Todd said on Tuesday, it's been with me for all these days. How does a view focus on the self when we're all one? We're all one simply means it's the sum total of everybody. I don't know if, and there might be a separate thing that is the one, but I haven't experienced that. And I don't know if many of us have. Let's just start with the one from the perspective of just being the sum total of everyone. And then see what's there. Like, let's just climb to a certain level summit. And we don't know what's past that summit until we get to till we climb to that level. Shelley, did you want to say something?
I totally get why pushback makes you mad, like MADD, because it's like crazy, not angry. Well, both, yeah. But it's because what we've all just been speaking about is, in order to maintain my truth, informing the truth, and having the perspective of the collective as getting closer to the truth, we need to stay connected. And we also need to manage ourselves in a way that allows us to stay in the partiality of me and other, with distinction. And pushing back is separating, it is refusing to move forward with anything. It's taking us back and digging in deeper into what's already been and into a more separated state, because it's pushing and it's going back. So it is kind of the death of us all. Like, just say no, don't push back.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly, and that's really what this is, because what you're saying is now helps me go back into, and well, first of all, I want to say, hey Tammy, if you don't mind, it really is helpful if you stay on camera, unless you have a problem with that, or let's just say the request is to stay on camera, to be in this together with the dojo. But if you need to not do that, that's also okay. I don't know if you heard me. Did you hear me, Tammy?
I did, Joe. I'll stay on as much as I can, but I can't stay on the whole time.
Okay, good, thanks. That was both expressing our needs and working with it. And that's where respectful confrontation is the first step of this. As Todd said, the first step is understanding, is the self. How can I have the courage and the skills to stand in my power, my truth, get my needs met, and that what is the important thing is in a way that I don't get harmed and other people don't get harmed. And then the fierce ability takes that further. How can I engage in the world and actually be part of the movement that overcomes what separates us and what's holding us back from a deeper level of a collective experience, and combining our wisdom, particularly with people that we don't know, finding allies in surprising places, to gather our resources, gather our skills and wisdom to elevate our species in a sense. So that's the starting point. And that's where the core exercise comes in. And that coming back to what Shelley was saying, because if you are, and I bring this back to, so this was just an examination of skills-based learning, of understanding. When I say skills-based learning and you look at concepts like my truth does not equal the truth, have you gotten to the point where it's fully a habit where you don't have to think about it anymore and you're doing it all the time, or at least like 98% as opposed to 2%? And that's not whether you're good or bad. It's not a test. It doesn't mean you failed if you haven't. It's simply helping you understand on a deeper level what we're talking about in terms of developing skill and a craft as a craftsperson in the world, or an art, or however you want to, however you're a technician, however you're whatever words work for you, artist. Same thing with the core exercise. When you have mastered the core exercise to the point where it's not just information and you're not just contemplating anymore as an understanding, and you're living it 24/7, that means you are all, you without question, you are always in right relationship with yourself, your surroundings, the planet, and with others. It's inherent in the core exercise that when you are in the core exercise and you are coming with respect and honor from your personal power and your heart with yourself, with your surroundings and others, which means you are fully present, fully aware, fully balanced, and fully in flow, then that means you are fully in right relationship with every phenomenon that's unfolding around you and within you. And that's the embodiment of respectful confrontation and fierce civility. That's ultimately the goal. And the way to it is through skills-based learning. It can be that simple, not easy to do, but simple in terms of what's the journey there. And to just question every day, how much is it just still an idea? How much do I have a really deep, wise understanding of it? And how often am I practicing it? Physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Any thoughts on that? And then I want to get us up and practice a little bit.
I had a thought around the notion of coming in around judgment and the trickiness when it comes to my truth doesn't equal the truth of judgment and the different kind of layers, the tricky layers of judgment, and even being aware if you are judging and feeling like, no, I'm just in my truth, but really there can be subtle levels of judgment one way or the other, and how to navigate those. And I feel like it's, again, the practice like you're talking about of coming into the heart and having the wisdom enough to be like, oh, there is judgment in that. And can I soften to hear your truth more because I'm not as bound, or I'm willing to be like, actually there is judgment, and how can I move into, how can I first admit that and not go into judgment about judging, because that's a tricky one too. Go into the whole meta about it, and then I guess be in deeper listening to the others. And I think that's a tricky piece of it, or I feel like that can be a tricky piece of even knowing when we are in judgment. And softening into that and admitting that, and then being able to hear people more deeply.
That's beautiful, Tori. Yeah. I would, and just to if I may add on to that, what I find an interesting game or dilemma is, because the answer to me is that, well, if you're constantly in curiosity about everything, that's the path in, right? That's not easy. That's a habit you have to learn. And at the same time, question everything. That the more you feel adamant about something is the more you need to question. Because just know that, oh, this is a signal that if I'm feeling really adamant, then there's a chance that I'm getting rigid and I'm in my truth equals the truth. The challenge in that I find is then you start second guessing yourself and questioning everything. And it's finding the right balance. It is a constant on the edge of what's a healthy way of examining your own rigidity and your own stubbornness, or your own sense of being adamant about something, which is what you're talking, like judgment. And then questioning the questioning, and be able to say, now, is this me doing a healthy examination, or is this me second guessing myself, which is keeping me, which is another pattern, Yeah. So it goes on and on. And that's the fun of it. I mean, if you think if you experience fun, FUNN, it's not fun, but fun. And,
Hey, Joe.
Yeah.
I just actually really love the what you're raising right now, especially the notion of moving from judging the judging to questioning the questioning, where one can sort of send you into a place of paralysis and sort of negativity about yourself, and the other can spin you off into openness. It also might be a little bit paralyzing too, but one sort of moves you toward closed, and the other moves you toward open. I just really appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other last comments before we get up, start moving?
I just want to reflect that that you're bringing the idea of skills-based learning into a much deeper level than I think I ever hear about it. Like for most people, the habit would be in each interaction, I recognize my judgments and I move from my truth does not equal the truth. But you're talking about like it entering so deeply that like even in our dreams, we're just operating from that place. So it makes it such a much more wild journey. Like what the first piece, the sort of normal idea of what a habit is like level like 1.5 or something on the scale of 27 in this journey. So pretty cool.
Did you say pretty cool?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you see that as cool. Could be daunting for some.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but that is what I'm saying. And that, and that's the process, right? Is that the idea of skills-based learning, that first phase of checking yourself, like I'll do it. Like I'll say something like blah, 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 blah. It's like this. And then I'll say, at least that's how I see it. That's still me in that phase where I have, but however, I'm at that phase where I catch myself, even though I've already said it, I catch myself and I don't say correct it, but adjust it. And that's okay. Yeah.
Something that's coming up for me in this conversation is also an awareness. Something that I appreciate about your work, Joe, is how much it helps me connect to myself and this concept of having or connecting with my own inner safety. So in terms of listening to people and what they've shared, I know that for myself, it's very challenging for me to feel curious when I don't feel safe. So it's sort of like in order for me to feel curious, there's like this whole back step of feeling safe in myself and in the situation that I know I have to do before I can get curious about the situation or about somebody else.
Yeah, and I don't mean to minimize it, because yes, I think that is an important point. What we're doing is we're naming all of the steps to get there, and that wherever we are on the journey is okay. It's really, and that wherever we are on the journey is where we need to be on the journey. And we don't know, doesn't, and being on the journey here as opposed to here doesn't mean you're behind or something like that. That's just where you are on the journey, because who knows where that, if you can master that part, that can be like a big leap here, even if,
yeah.
And that's of course just working with this idea that any of this is linear. But again, I'm going to bring it back to the core exercise. If you have fully embodied the core exercise, there's no more question of safety. You are safe. You're always safe. Because you've overcome those parts of you that don't feel safe. And you have such a deep sense of confidence within yourself that if you move into a situation where danger is approaching, you would have noticed that 10 minutes or 10 hours before it happened. I don't know if that's true. I think it's true.
I want it to be true.
I think it is true. I think that's the point.
I want it to be true, but I don't know if it is.
Yeah, and you don't know until you try it, and that's, and that's where it's just like, the only thing I can ask is try it. And then what I always say, especially in the more advanced work, is please do not take any of this by blind faith. I'm just offering this, and I'm offering from my experience and how I've learned this over the years from my teachers. And it's yours to examine. However, I believe in my heart, even though I don't experience it all the time, that that is true, that if you have fully embodied or have gone far down the road of fully embodying the core exercise, there's no more question of safe. You are safe. And that even in moments of danger, you feel, which I don't think could happen, because I think you're so connected in right relationship with self, your surroundings, and others, that you would have used your flexibility pillar to find your way around it and avoid it, or prevent it, or de-escalate it before it escalates. That's how the respectful defense comes into the core exercise. For those of you who are looking for ways of how do I fit all of this into the core exercise on the other way, like how does all of this play into the core exercise? So it's a fun examination, and I'm just offering it as a way of, I'm trying to do that more with the dojo and with the apprenticeship, is to give you more material for the second part of skills-based learning, which is contemplation and reflection. So that when you're practicing it, so all of these ways are just different ways in to understand my truth is not equal to that truth, the core exercise and other principles. So let's stand up. I want to do some practice with you. See, I'm going to do this. Okay, so let's start in power stance. Standing with your feet the width of your hips or a little bit more. Feet flat on the floor. Your feet are pointing forward. And I really invite you to, when you're pointing, when your feet are going forward and you want to make a straight line, I invite you to practice, start using the outside of your foot as the measure of the straight line, which brings your toes in a little bit more, which may feel weird if you're not used to standing that way, but it's actually a more efficient way of creating grounding. You have more surface of the feet on the ground. You're locking in your hips in a certain way that creates stability. Bending in your knees slightly, finding the middle point of the foot, which is closer to the ball, the inside part of the ball of the foot. So that you're noticing, can you imagine that you don't have all your weight in the toes or your heels, but more in the middle of the foot. Relaxing down your pelvis, the tailbone drops down, belly's relaxed, elongating your spine, taking a nice big breath to create space between each vertebrae, also extending from the back of your neck. Bless you. The surface of the spine, shoulders are relaxed, fingers are relaxed. And just quickly, your quick version of the core exercise, feet on the ground, focus in your center and your heart. From your center and your heart, become aware of yourself. Take a deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. From your center and from your heart, become aware of your surroundings. Take a deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. From your center and from your heart, become aware of the rest of the group. Take a deep breath in. That's your quick version of a core exercise. Feet on the ground, focus in your center. Well, power stance. Feet on the ground, focus in your center and your heart. Self, breath, surroundings, breath, other, breath. That's the practice you can practice while you're at the grocery store and you engage with someone. That you can cultivate the habit of very quickly just feeling your feet on the ground, focus in your center, your heart, self, surroundings, others, and breathing. So just take a moment, place your hands on your, one over the other on your core. In Chi practices, there are specific instructions on which hand goes over which, and I'll just share with you so that you know. It's based on whether you're a male-bodied or female-bodied. I throw that all out. I say you just decide and feel intuitively what feels right for you. Feel the energy of your palms connecting with your core. Feeling like if there's some sense of electromagnetic field that you're feeling. And just imagine for a moment from the top of your head, chi flowing in through your head with ease, flowing down your shoulders and your arms into your hands, energizing the palms of your hands, allowing the chi to now flow from the palms of your hand right into your core. And as Tori reminds us, we're not a two-dimensional being. Your core also extends to the back of your, even though it's more towards the front of the body, it has a 3D aspect to it. So make sure that your chi energy is also hitting the back part of and the sides of the core. Now imagining from the earth an invitation to just feel through the bottoms of your feet, an invitation asking Mother Earth, may I connect with you through my feet. And if you get permission, begin to feel the energy flowing up from the ground, through your feet, through your legs, through your pelvis, coming up to your core. And use this as an opportunity to fill your core with chi energy. Keeping the knees slightly bent, making sure you're breathing light, easy breaths. You may even want, if you're having a little trouble connecting, you don't have to, but if you're having trouble connecting with the back of your core, you may want to take one of your hands and place it approximately where your core would be on your lower back. If you begin to start shaking or trembling a little bit, go with it. It's just the chi moving through the system and the body adjusting to the higher levels of chi. With emotions, letting emotions flow and energy flow. Noticing as you're doing this places where you're still holding, like perhaps your jaw, your belly, your shoulders. And while there's a power in this, feeling the softness and the gentleness of this, cultivating the sense of gentleness and power and strength together. Now as a way of uniting your core, well, actually before that, you have one of your hands on your back. Take that, put that back on your both hands together. And now take one of your hands and place it in the middle of your chest. And the same thing, feeling the chi flowing up through the earth, through your feet and your legs, through your core, now flowing up to your heart. And from the top of your head, the chi flowing in, down your shoulders and down your arms, and particularly now your hand that's it's holding your heart. Feeling the chi filling your heart as well. Make sure you're taking nice, slow, deep, soft breaths in through your nose, out through your mouth. training yourself that with each exhale, there's a purpose why you're breathing out through your mouth, because the idea is that you don't push the breath out on the exhale, you just let the breath release itself. The more you train yourself with this idea that on the inhale there's effort, and on the exhale there's release, then you'll also begin to find in all things you do that there's, in every moment that's born, there's an effort, reaches its high point, and then it dies away and it releases. So in this context also, with every breath you take as you exhale, it's another invitation for you to drop deeper into the earth to be held. And we're talking on micro levels of muscles that might still be holding, stories in your body, in your nervous system and muscle memory of holding and resisting rigidity. That's why you can stand in this stance for 2 hours and just notice the impact of that. I'm not suggesting we do that now or suggesting you do that tonight or tomorrow, but just to consider that even just standing in this stance, there's so much work that's done. So just shake your hands a little bit, feeling the charge you've generated in your heart and your core. Now we're going to unite the heart and the core. So now bring your feet together as if you're cupping your core from underneath. Again, you intuitively feel which hand goes on top of the other. And now just in a very slow inhale, breathing in, bringing the hands up to the heart. As you get to the top of the breath, turning the palms down, still holding the breath. And as you exhale, slowly bringing the hands down. Full exhale. And as you get to the bottom of the breath, turning the palms up again. Inhale. Turning the palms down. Exhale. This is a beautiful, and with each gentle breath, you're inviting a deeper connection with your core and your heart. Inhale. Exhale. And the more sensitive you become to feeling the chi energy, the electromagnetic field of the chi, it almost can feel dense. That you can actually feel that, for instance, when you're pulling up, when you're pushing up, it's like you're pushing up through mud. You can feel the electromagnetic field really having that sense, that dense feeling is like you're really pushing the energy up. In fact, you could even feel that any blocks you might have between your core and your heart, that simply it's like you're scooping away the blocks up, or you're just creating more movement and down. All right, shake it out. So I would say practice that, the chi practice of just the power stance, and then just really activating this, bringing in connection, the power and softness. Now I'm going to try it a different way of doing the hands. So now imagine you've got a beach ball here. You've got the same principle, but now you're separating the hands. And your lower hand is, the lower hand is cupping from below the core, the upper hand is above the heart. And now just very slowly, just begin to switch that. And you could do breath however you want. Right now, it's just more about the physical movement, the arms. Very soft. Notice my hands are soft. Keep going, and I just want to, my hands are not rigid. They're making a slight cupping motion. The wrist is soft. The elbows are soft. There's softness in the whole process. All the hands are doing is they're just replacing each other. Okay, shake it out. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of our leg lifts, but we're going to do it in a different way than we've done them before. So let's just do a few of our leg lifts. So, just so that we can feel that. Standing in power stance, feet flat on the floor. And let's just do stationary leg lifts. So shifting all of your weight to your left. And remember, what you want to do is you want to keep your spine straight. You don't want to tilt the spine. You want to keep it in that vertical line, that perpendicular with the ground. And you want to keep yourself in the horizontal plane. You don't want to bounce up and down like a low ceiling. You don't want to scrape your head. You're staying so that your vertical line is staying 90 degrees and your horizontal line is staying in that in a steady line as well. So you see I shift one side, up to the other. And while you're doing this, always train yourself to really do the math. 100, 0, 50, 50, 0, 100, or however you want to do it. And that, if you notice, if you're good at math at all, 0 plus 100 equals 100, 50 plus 50 equals 100, and 100 plus 0 equals 100. Even 70 plus 30 equals 100. They always equal 100. That's a way of training yourself to always know that 100% of your weight is being supported by the ground, regardless of how you distribute that weight over the two legs. Make sure you're breathing, make sure everything is soft and relaxed. The only places that are exerting energy and force is the lower body. The upper body is completely relaxed. Next time you go to 100%, whatever leg it is, with the opposite leg, just lift it up. And remember, when you place the leg again, place it with no weight first, that you train yourself to keep 100% of your weight when you place the foot. Then you shift, feeling 50-50, going to the other side, lift the leg. Again, very subtle, very small movements, but there's enormous power in this. That you, first of all, cultivate strength in these subtle muscles here in the hip flexors, which creates stability. It also creates security and confidence that you can support yourself. All right, shake it out. That's stationary leg lifts. What we're now going to do is a little bit of a variation on it, almost like an elephant walking. So I've got all my weight in my right leg, and I'm making a little bit of a smaller thing than power stance. My legs come in just a little bit closer. I've got now 100% of my right leg. I lift the left leg and I place the foot towards the left in the same plane that it was, not in front, not in back, but I try to keep it on the same plane. I place the foot with no weight. When I know it's secure, I shift all of my weight to that foot. Same thing. When it's 100%, I lift up the right foot and place it a little bit closer. In the same plane, so that the toes are always in the same line. Right foot 100%, and I stand out. Keeping the knees slightly bent. If you have a tendency that your knees go in like that, really start training yourself to open up the thighs so that the knees go outwards. You don't want to train it so that you don't have to collapse knees. You want to train the knees that even though you're making these movements that make the knees want to go together, you're still training yourself to keep the knees out. And when you've gone over to one side for a while, then take a moment and then go back in the other direction. Once again, remembering you're not tilting your spine, you're staying in one vertical line, and you're not bouncing up and down, you're staying in one horizontal plane. Okay, shake it out. We're going to put this all together. And the way it's going to look is this. We're going to do the walking side to side, and we're going to do this motion. So watch here. I'll do it a little bit. So I bring my feet closer together. I start, however I start, within this posture. All of my weight goes to my right leg. I step out, no weight. The moment I start shifting, I switch my hands. Then I lift my leg, right leg, place it closer. The moment I shift, I rotate my hands. So in the process of moving the foot, the hands don't move. When the foot is secure, I don't have to look. I can feel it secure, and I feel that it's on the same plane as the other foot. And when I start shifting, that's when my hands rotate. Notice any rigidity, go slower. Todd, go a lot slower. Really find the softness in this. Trust the earth. Trust the earth. Allow yourself to be held. Again, all the contradicting motion in this is that there's a lot of exertion in the lower body, a lot of contraction in the muscles in the lower body, but in the upper body, the shoulders are relaxed, the jaw is relaxed, the neck is relaxed, the shoulders are relaxed, the arms and the elbows are relaxed, your hands are soft, and the movement in both is flowing. You got flexibility in the upper body, strength in the lower body. Grounding is your movement downward, and your focus is in your center. Breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. This is called in Tai Chi, I believe, floating clouds. Fingers are loose. Okay, shake it out. Shake it out. Stretch the body. Notice if there was any tension. Make sure you shake out your legs. Shake out your upper body. Take a moment, stand in power stance. Put your hands again on your core, or it's your choice, just on your core, or one hand on your core and one hand on your heart. It's up to you. And take a moment and just breathe in all the efforts that you've just done. Breathing in the chi from your own physical, from your own self, the chi from your surroundings, the chi from the others, the chi from this practice, the chi from the earth, the chi from the heavens. Letting that fill you, every cell in your body, your nervous system, your organs, feeding in your organs in a delicious way, vitalizing them, your brain, your lungs, your heart, your liver, your kidneys, to name a few. Like it's all seeping into your system. Feeling the quality of your heart right now, and now bringing, if your hand was on your heart, bringing both hands to your core, and just allowing any excess chi that might be hanging out, fill the battery if it's not fully full. See if you can fill your battery to 100% or at least close. And remembering your core is also towards the back and the sides. Thanking the above, the heavens above you for this delicious life-enforcing energy. Thanking Mother Earth for this delicious life-enforcing energy. And as a way to seal this practice and to seal your battery so that the energy doesn't seep out, so it's for you to use for the rest of the day, we'll do 9 circles in one direction around your core with both hands. And 9 circles in the other direction. Again, use your intuition which directions you go. And then rub your hands, and let's do a dry face wash. You could either touch your face or just go close to your face with your hands and do 9 circles in your face. Okay, let's have a seat. We have a couple of minutes. Let's check in. How was that practice for you? Or do you have any questions? Tommy had to take a call. And Tammy as well.
Well, with the face part, are you going in or out? I forget.
I don't think it matters. It may matter, but I don't know.
Right.
I do both, Amelia, and it feels, I do ins like this and then out, and that feels good to me.
Do both. Thanks.
I thought that I was digging the moving side to side with the shifting weight and feeling the difference between when I was in wide-legged stance, it felt more demanding in my musculature. And then when I was like really tall, narrow A with my legs, it was more challenging to feel the 80, 20, 70, 30, because it was like, it was a very short maneuver. So, and then I kind of thought, oh, it's more challenging both ways. How fun. So I'm kind of trying to reframe oh, it seems to be more challenging everywhere. How fun. Do you know what I mean? Instead of like, this fucking sucks. So, anyway. So I was appreciating the difference in the wide-legged and the more narrow maneuver.
Yeah. Thank you.
I appreciated the notion of the, I'm writing it down so I remember, but the inhale of being an effort and the exhale of being release, and taking that to every notion of our life, that there's an effort and then there'll be an exhale, and remembering that.
Yeah.
I also noticed within my own self, when we were bringing the chi up from our core and into our heart and down, that there was more, for me, more heaviness, or that muddiness that you said, bringing it up, then bringing it back down.
Beautiful, yeah. Well, it's beautiful to notice that, yeah. And who knows what that is?
I don't know what that means yet, but
yeah, I guess it's not. Yeah, who knows?
Yeah,
could be gravity. Could simply be gravity. Or it could be for you that energetically that route is more challenging than the other direction.
Yeah, wonder that.
Found with this, was it called softening cloud? Joe, what was that?
Floating cloud.
I was forgetting to breathe. I was holding my breath.
Yeah.
It was a little bit like, what's that old pat your head, rub your tummy? I can't do both. I was thinking very much about that, and therefore holding my breath. So I was trying to flow, yet I was tight because I wasn't breathing.
Yeah, and that's skills-based learning, right? So you're still trying to figure it out in your head.
Yeah, very much.
And the more you practice it and trust it, then you don't need to think about it anymore. You're just doing it. So you're
I was also watching myself in the screen, which I should have maybe tried closing my eyes, or maybe try that and see if that.
Speaker view is great.
Yeah, you can also hide your camera view if you want. I was I'm dog sitting. Let's see if he wants to say hi. So I had a extra nervous system to navigate, and he was definitely triggered by my energetic stillness and wanted to play, and so it was kind of trying to keep his nervous system in check. And by the end, he was like sitting there very attentive, just like watching me float. And it was a reminder of when we're in respectful confrontations, we are navigating our own nervous systems, and we have to be sensitive to the nervous system of other. And there's that extra challenge there.
Yeah, beautiful. I love it. Okay, well, let's take a breath. Well, my truth is that this was fun. This was good to work with you and have this conversation. Any last words before we close?
I just want to play with this idea for the rest of the day that like I'm efforting in one way and totally relaxed and at ease in another way. Yeah. So that's my little homework for the rest of my life.
Beautiful. Okay, Tori, you want to close us out?
Yeah. Bringing our hands to heart center in a practice of deep reverence and honor, and dedicating these energies today to the gratitude of the energy of the earth, of the energy of the heavens, and that we have this capacity to tap into that with reverence at any moment, to then further sharing our gifts more effectively with the world. So in deep bow to that energy within us, that energy we share. And may all beings on this planet have access to clean water and food. And may the leaders in this time be leading from a place of wisdom and humanity versus fear and greed. Deep bow to each of you. Have a beautiful day. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you. It's fun.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks.
Take care.
Have a great day.
What a group. Bye.
What a group. What a group.
What a group.